Hi, this is just a video follow-up of my experience at Abilities Expo this year, 2018. I was only able to attend for one day, which is today, May 5th. And I wanted to just put out a plea to the exhibitors to think, is this the Abilities Expo or is this the Ableism Expo? So let me explain. I've noticed, not with all booths, but with some booths, they are primarily geared towards caregivers, which is fine and valid. Caregivers need resources, and the people who are disabled, who depend on these caregivers, need the resources that the caregivers benefit from. 100%. But it's a real shame when something that's designed for the caregivers is only designed for able-bodied caregivers to access. So some booths, and this has nothing to do with size, some booths are literally designed for standing room only, which for me means that someone in a wheelchair cannot access the table where the informational pamphlets are, or even the person who's in charge of the booth, which is really difficult, especially in an expo where it's very loud and it's very difficult to get people's attention at times. And if me as a wheelchair user, for certain things, especially for the expo, but me as a wheelchair user, when all of the product is lined in front and there's no space for a standard size wheelchair to get through those products, it becomes impossible to get the attention of the person running the booth, as well as impossible to gain any information at all about the products. And this happened to be a booth that carried products that could benefit persons, whether they were pediatric or adult or even geriatric. So even though the company typically only deals with caregivers or able-bodied persons, even though they sell products for disabled persons, they literally designed their booth only for able-bodied persons to access it. And it was really frustrating, especially because I was interested in a couple of their products for my own needs. Additionally, every single year there are cars on the floor being sold, and none of these cars are designed for persons with disabilities to drive. They are only designed for caregivers of persons with disabilities. So the person with a disability is riding in the back or in the passenger seat. None of the cars on the floor are ever equipped with hand controls or adaptive driver seating. Nothing. They are only for the persons who are able-bodied. And they do have a ramp and they can accommodate a wheelchair, but they're really designed for the caregiver. And it's really a shame because we have thousands of people that go to Abilities Expos every year. And these are persons who want to buy cars because they need adaptive vehicles. Granted, some of us do rely on public transportation, but when the only expo that exists for us in the entire nation doesn't have cars that are accessible for disabled drivers, it becomes unreasonable. I saw one young gentleman perusing the floor for hours trying to find a truck he wanted to buy because he's in a wheelchair and he needs an adaptive truck. And he wasn't going to be leaving the expo with a title that day. Yes, they sell these cars on the floor. There are sold signs that go up. People buy these cars on the spot, except for disabled people, because none of the cars are designed for persons who are disabled to drive. So that's just like two of many examples that I found where things weren't actually designed for the disabled people that go to these expos. And I do understand that the caregivers need resources and stuff, but this is a real shame and we need to do better. So if you are an exhibitor at a future Abilities Expo, or even one this year, please, please, please try to have your informational pamphlets and that table with all the information as easily accessed as possible for persons of all abilities, whether they're in a wheelchair, a walker, or able-bodied. Please have that front and center so that we can access them and so we can access you. Please be attentive to those of us who are short because we're in our chairs or because we just are short and we can't get your attention because you're so far away and your products are blocking us from accessing you. And please try to keep, for the larger booths, please try to keep a standard wheelchair width between products so that persons of all abilities can not only examine your products, but also access you again. And you also become inaccessible when everything is designed for the standing person's eye gaze. I've found the most engaging and the most accessible booths to be the ones where persons were already sitting or were in a wheelchair themselves. We even had some able-bodied people in wheelchairs just demonstrating some features, which was totally fine and great because I felt like we were on the same level and it was really easy to converse. And it didn't feel awkward that sometimes people will kneel in front of me and it's a little overwhelming because I can almost feel how uncomfortable they are. So like having somebody in a chair or a wheelchair, like talking to me, that was very relaxed and conversational, and the most engaging conversations and informational exchanges and networking happened in that mid-height space. So for booths that have signs that are really high up where we have to tilt our heads back to see, where all of the booth attendants are standing, where the information is for standing room only, meaning like a wheelchair can't get to it. Those were the booths that if I really, really wanted to be there, I would check back multiple times to see if there was enough space for me to access you. But otherwise, I just rolled by and you probably lost a customer because of that. I might not even know what you were trying to sell or what products or services you offer because there is literally no space for my abilities. So just keep that in mind. And I really appreciate the Abilities Expo for everything they do every single year. It is a necessary resource for this region. I go to the New York Metro one, and it is a necessary resource for lots of people. So I hate to add more, but also we need those companies that sell more than just wheelchairs to show their walkers, their crutches, everything. We need more of that because this expo needs to be for persons of all abilities, whether they're walking part-time, in a wheelchair part-time or full-time, or have other needs. Okay, I'm done. Thank you. Bye.